Yes, it's used as a weapon saying that get pregnant earlier, you may have difficulty later on, but at the same time, you can take charge of your biological clock. Suppose I've frozen my eggs or embryos at 28 or 29, and I decide to get pregnant at the age of 40. My eggs and embryos are still 28, 29 at the age I've frozen them. They stop aging, they don't become 40.
Clinic will advertise, sure, short, 99%, you're gonna go through this process, have a baby. What happens if they go to IVF and it fails? Oh my God, life comes crashing down because the expectations were
Much
there.
higher. We got married, we want to have a child, but we're not being able to have a child. So when are we going to become parents? Are we bad people? Has there been something wrong in our karma?
It's like an identity crisis.
Please look at her. There's something wrong with her. She can't get pregnant. Hello? It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
50% of the times it's going to be the man that's responsible.
Absolutely.
This couple, they adopted an embryo which was frozen all the way back in 1994. Today's techniques have become so refined, we've become experts at it, that they were probably being able to use it. As I said, these embryos can be frozen technically for life.
Dr. Rohan Palshetkar is one of Mumbai's leading IVF specialists, a gold medalist, award-winning orator, and head of unit at Bloom IVF. In this episode, he talks about the emotional and medical journeys behind fertility treatment and what it truly takes to help couples become parents.
So let's discuss infertility in a nutshell, and not what is available on social media, because there's so much information and it may not be verified, would be verified because everyone has an opinion and it's kind of thrown out like a fact. So tell us, what is it in a nutshell?
So if you look at infertility, it was something that's considered just a problem that happens with almost every couple. But over the last 20 years, it's actually picked up steam, I would say, to put it in the term that you can see that there's been an increasing trend. If you look at the World Health Organization, 10 years back, they said that 1 in 10 couples suffer from infertility in the world. Now they say it's 1 in 6. So we can actually see a rise in trend, especially with infertility. If you just put it simply, what is infertility? Or rather, I should say, what is fertility? Sperm meets the egg, forms a baby, and that baby implants in the uterus of the woman.
Naturally. Correct.
Infertility is basically when one of these three parameters, there's something wrong. This is just to put it very simply.
I know.
There's a lot more complexity
we were asking
to
in
it.
a simple way.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, simply put, is like she can't conceive. Have you heard that? It's said it most commonly. She can't conceive. What is the meaning of she can't conceive? The couple is going through an infertility period.
Absolutely.
So it's not addressed correctly. Hence, I'm asking you to put it in a nutshell where people will understand it takes two to tango.
But being very honest, this problem still exists. Even when I'm sitting in clinic, they'll say, please look at her. There's something wrong with her. She can't get pregnant. Hello? It's, as you said, it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
50% of the times it's going to be the man that's responsible.
Absolutely.
However, when we look at it, we always counsel that, look, we're treating both of you. We're not just treating the woman. Unfortunately, yes, the woman has to go through majority of the procedures while the man doesn't. But most of the times what ends up happening is, what we see is the sperm count may be low. The sperm morphology, like as in the shape and what are the cells
Quality,
inside,
yeah.
the quality is poor and the motility is low, especially with an increased incidence of smoking, drinking, and now unfortunately even recreational drugs. Yeah. We've seen that the sperm parameters have dropped. In fact, over the last 50 years, there's been a drop of 120% in sperm count over the last 5 decades.
My goodness.
Yeah. So honestly, never blame one person, whether it's the woman, whether it's the man. Remember that whenever we're treating the couple, because at the end of the day, it's not motherhood, it's parenthood.
It is, absolutely. So infertility is usually discussed in numbers and statistics, but on the ground, what does it really look like? Like, what is the truth that couples live with that this society never sees?
See, you have to understand that, like I said, 1 in 10, 1 in 6. I just threw out numbers there, which are the world statistics. But if you look at it at a ground level, a lot of couples don't understand what fertility ensues. Like, I have now working couples who just aren't being able to be intimate because of work stress, workload. It's anytime anybody talks about infertility, we're immediately thinking of IUI, IVF. Sometimes it's just a matter of de-stressing, letting it all go. It's just about the counseling. these couples just require some tender loving care, TLC as we call it.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we look at it, society keeps thinking ki, अरे 5 साल हो गया, बच्चा नहीं हुआ है, 7 years, there's no children. Have you asked the couple if they wanted a kid that early? I got married at 25. I don't want to have a kid for 5 years. I had my kid 5 years into my marriage. Yes, family is always asking, when are the kids and this, that. So at that point, it's important to actually have a discussion with that couple. I had one couple who actually came and said, look, we both have crazy lives, but we want to start a family early. We want to go through IVF. So there are couples like that also who opt for it, saying that sometimes their schedules don't match. Like the husband's traveling 4 days a week, the wife is traveling 3 days a week or 2 days a week, and they just got 1 day in which they're common. And if you're not ovulating in that period,
it won't happen.
It's not going to happen. So no matter what the statistics and everything say, I think it's important to understand each person's actual journey to know what they're going through to actually say that yes or no, you have fertility issues.
Correct. And most conversations about infertility, like we said, they are centered around women. Like men, just, I don't know why, no matter how much we have progressed as a nation, no matter how much the education rate has gone up, people being in schools, people being educated, people getting degrees, but still the conversation is, it's the woman's problem, because the woman has to go through the pregnancy, the woman carries the baby, hence it feels like or looks like it's the woman's problem. So what about men? What are the silent struggles that they face? And why do they remain so undiscussed?
So I'll tell you what, let me put it scientifically and then also in a non-scientific manner as well. If you look at it scientifically, do you know male infertility was discovered only as recent as 1950?
That's it?
That's it. Otherwise, it always used to be, it's the woman's fault, it's the woman's fault. In fact, the first IVF that was done was because for tube defects. Nobody really thought about the male factor even at that point.
Correct.
Because the tubes weren't working, that's why IVF was done. Today, we're doing IVF for all sorts of reasons. A second thing is, a little unfortunate part is that if a man is infertile, he's not masculine enough. That's a very unfortunate thought or stigma that's there. So nobody really wants to discuss whether their semen count was low, their sperm count was low, there wasn't any motility. What needs to be understood is, what if it's a genetic factor?
Yeah.
How is the man supposed to control that? So nobody wants to talk about it openly that, look, even it's not just the man, but even the wife doesn't want to talk about saying that, oh, my husband has a low sperm count. My husband had 0 sperms.
No, that is also if she is able to convince him to get that test. I have seen mostly that people don't even want to go for that test. They will say, it's not with me. First you test her. Everything's not okay. Then I'll come for the test.
Exactly. I have not even couples. The women come in saying that, oh, we've been trying to conceive without their husbands or anything. They'll show me their reports. I'll take a look at their battery of tests which they have done. And they're like, but what's the problem? I said, I don't have the semen analysis.
Yeah, I need the second sheet.
Yeah, I need the second paper. Yeah, I can't continue without this. I'm like, you've only given me one part of the question. I can answer that much. But if everything's normal with you, we have to see if there's something wrong there. And she said, no, my husband is very good. We have no problems in being intimate. Our sex life is good. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink. I said, those are not the only factors which determine. Like, another big myth is, oh, if you go to the gym, you're working out, you're fit, doesn't matter. You're younger, your sperm count will be good. Absolute bullshit. Sorry, I hope I'm allowed to use that. But you need to understand that for a woman, we do for an IVF cycle, we do close to about 13 to 15 blood tests. Okay, so that's a needle going in. All right, collecting blood about 10 to 12 ml, not too much, considering we have 5 liters in the body.
But it's still the needle.
It's still a needle going in. It's invasive. Plus, she has to undergo an ultrasound, which could be either abdominal or transvaginal.
Correct.
Then after that, we get it. For a man, it's just ejaculating into a cup.
One
time. It's not invasive. There's no needles. There's nothing. They just have to come. And the best part now is you don't even have to come to the hospital to do it.
I know
you get about 30 minutes to an hour to transport it from home to the clinic. So it doesn't really I understand at times a hospital may not be the best place to give a semen sample, but at that time, yes, it is required. So when we do that, why not just get this simple test done? No pricks. You don't even need to fast for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it should be an alert. It's not a medical test.
Yeah, yeah, literally. We're asking you to do it in a cup. So in that manner, it's not that big a deal. So if this entire stigma around it changes, but I'll tell you what, when couples are motivated to have a kid, we don't face this issue. It's the problem is when the entire family gets involved. That's
Which is
when-
most likely the case in India.
Yeah,
Especially, I'm sure, tier 2, tier 3, you see that a lot.
absolutely. In fact, when I'm counseling a patient, they're like, I'll talk to the couple and they're like, can you please explain this to my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, then Tauji, Taiji, everyone starts coming in and I'm like, why don't you get everyone together? And I actually have to ask every couple. I'm like, look, I'm going to ask you some really invasive questions because it's required. Are you comfortable about talking to them?
In front of 3 family members.
Yeah, I'm like, or whatever. The biggest family that has spoken in front of is 9.
9 members sitting for...
2, I had the husband and wife and 9 other family members sitting at the back. And I'm like, I felt like I was literally taking a lecture.
Oh, it was like a play.
Yeah. And I'm like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, please speak freely. The minute the first question that I asked them was, how often do you have sex? They're like, okay, all of you laughed. And then as soon as you ask that question, they realize that this is going to be a very intimate conversation because it has to be a dialogue.
You know, infertility is one thing. I also think that the decision to have kids, whether it be 1, 2 or 5, or the decision to not have kids for the rest of your life, or decision to have 2 kids 5 years apart, or to have 2 kids 2 years apart, or to just have an only child, to just have a boy, to just have a girl. I'm just saying, any of these decisions, what I find really bizarre that even today is 2025, a lot of family members want to decide for you. So if me and my husband, for example, have decided we only want 1 child, we don't actually want more children, everybody will still ask us at family gatherings, what happened? You're not trying for second? Is it not time yet? Did you miss the bus? You know, it's like, but it's almost like, why are you asking?
Exactly.
It is not anybody's business.
It's not your business.
Yeah, it's not anybody. I think this basic thing should be taught in schools for the next generation, that it is only your business and even your parents are not entitled to ask you that question.
I think
it is between you and your partner.
Absolutely. I think now I feel the generation's changing a little bit. We're still a long way away.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're there yet, but I do sometimes see those changes happening because I have a lot of couples. See, initially when I started off IVF at the start of my career, everyone used to be like, we'll get twins, we want to have 2 babies. Now I'm reaching a point where they say, listen, I want a single baby only. I've heard IVF gives twins. So can we please ensure that we have a single baby? And when you talk about this, about the parents getting involved, about having a second kid, deciding whether you want to have 1, 2 or 5, yes, it's a very personal matter.
Yeah.
But I also understand from their viewpoint, like I'll talk about my own mother's family. They're total 9 siblings.
9 siblings.
9 siblings. They're 9 siblings.
They were a whole village of their own.
Yeah. They were a whole village. What they have seen is they are a very good support system to each other. So now I'm the only kid in my family. When I had my daughter, my mom said, why don't you plan for a second one? I think that's as we were talking about it. Why aren't you planning for a second one? I said, I'm very happy. You're like, no, you should have a second kid. You can see the amount of support. I said, you didn't have a second kid. I'm like, how is this a fair conversation? But at the same time, I understand they want to make sure that their grandchildren or their kids have someone who's supported otherwise.
No, respectfully ask once or twice, because in the end, your parents or your grandparents or your relatives, whatever, your siblings, I could ask my sister that I hope you're planning 2 or 3. See, once or twice you want to ask as a friendly conversation, fair. But I have seen a very close friend of mine, her in-laws really pushed her for 2 years to have a second kid. By the end, she's cracked and she's like, I'm going to go ahead and have it. And I was like, you will be looking after that child. It's an entire adult. You're going to be looking till 18. You have 18 years of commitment. So just because somebody says something, you have to see the fact that you're committed to that child. And in Indian community, in Indian culture, it's not 18 years, it's like 38 years. So you're committed to that for 38 years. Are you looking for that commitment?
Yeah,
like, don't just say yes because someone's pushing you. Do it. It's like someone pushes you to a degree. Would you go to university again for 5 years? No, you wouldn't, right?
Please no, please
That's
no.
my point. Would I go to university to do a second degree just because my mother thinks it's a great idea? No. So why would I have a second degree just because it's a great idea by her?
I completely
We have
agree.
to have clarity, and I think there has to be a very respectful distance between what you would want for your sibling or your child versus, or your best friend or your friends, versus what they want for themselves. Because everyone wants different things. For example, there are women who are not, who are very happy homemakers. They're not career oriented. They go ahead, they have 2-3 children, good for them. They're very happy doing it. But for example, if you're very career driven, you are work driven, you want to do something, you want to make a difference in the world, you may not have time for 3 kids.
Exactly.
So
And
if
you
that's
wanna
your
give-
choice, then many times families don't respect it.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to happen. But I understand what you say on that point. Like, I look at my own self, like, I'm traveling to multiple cities for cases and things like that. I know for a fact that for me, it's not quantity of time, it's the quality of time that I
Correct.
need to spend with my daughter. So when I do get that time, I actually had contemplated about a second child at that point. But then at that point, I was just thinking, I was like, is it fair to the second child? Is it fair to my wife that if we have a second kid, would she be willing? Because she's a breast cancer surgeon. So she has a busy schedule as well.
Wow.
So at the same time, look, doctors are going to marry doctors. Nobody else can tolerate us. So in that manner, we did think about it. But at the same time, we did think about pros and cons of it. In fact, now to a point, I've actually got my own vasectomy done to ensure that we don't have an accident, because we were very clear about what we
Yeah.
wanted. And I think what you've said really hits the nail, that it's okay to have a friendly conversation once or twice about understanding the viewpoint,
Correct.
whether they want to have a child or not. Whether you agree with that or not is again none of your business.
Yeah.
It's the couples.
Exactly, because in the end, they're going to have the child, they're going to raise the child, they're going to fund the child,
Exactly.
they're going to marry off that child, and they're going to live with all the miseries of the whatever come in that
Happiness
journey.
or misery.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, it's always a bag of
Yeah, of
mixed
course.
bag of things, So that mixed bag is going to be their bag, it's not going to be yours.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Anyway, so moving on. Tell me, infertility isn't just a medical issue; it's also become an identity crisis. Elaborate on that.
A lot of people now are thinking of parenthood. So when they're not able to achieve that parenthood, they're like, what is my purpose? That is a question a lot of patients end up asking. They're like, we got married, we want to have a child, but we're not being able to have a child. So when are we going to become parents? Are we bad people? This is actually a question that's come, that we're not. Has there been something wrong in our karma or in our, kundli, because of which we're not having a child? So that really creates a massive mental issue for them, in terms of like their mental health gets affected to an extent where they start questioning themselves whether they can, and this not only affects their personal life, but affects their professional, their careers,
Yeah, that's what I'm
family
saying.
life.
It's
Yeah.
like an identity crisis, because they don't recognize themselves as themselves. They start to see themselves as people who are incapable, or who are less than normal, or people start to think they're incompetent. So, not good enough. That not good enough syndrome can be a huge mental distress.
Absolutely.
So tell me, how do you help couples redefine themselves and their self-worth through ability of fertility?
So I'll be very honest with you. Whenever a new patient comes in, see, our follow-up consults are always shorter, because generally we've already sat with them. But when a new patient comes in, I take my time. I do a 30 to 40-minute consult, because it's important to understand what they are going through, and it's important for them to understand what all procedures they're going to go through as well. Because the journey is not easy. As much as it's as simple as saying, don't worry, we'll take your egg, we'll take your sperm, make the baby,
Put it back
into your uterus, and you have a good chance of getting pregnant. No, it's not just that. Each patient is going to have a different issue, understanding what their mental health is. Let's take patient A and patient B. They have the same problem. Patient A has the same problem. When I say A and B, it's couple A and couple B. So when couple A has the same problem and couple B has the same problem, the treatment's the same. But couple A is not confident, couple B is confident. So at that point, the way I'm going to be speaking to couple A and the way I'm going to be speaking to couple B is going to be very different. In fact, what I love about what our government has done right now in terms of the ART law. This is a new law which came in 2021. They've actually made counseling compulsory as a part of IVF now.
Oh, amazing.
So because, see, we'll explain to you what the procedure is. To a certain extent, I may be able to even, in today's terms, say, vibe with you in terms of explaining or get along with you, but I'm not as qualified to understand the mental health of it, understand what all counseling is needed at that end. So
Yeah. You wouldn't go into the baggage a person is coming with. You wouldn't go into the conditioning the person is coming
and
with.
even if I do, I may not know how to treat it.
Yeah.
I may not know how to approach it because I've been trained in a certain manner.
Medical manner.
I've been trained. I need the sperms, I need the eggs, I need to make the baby and put it in. Yes, I may be empathetic, but that may not be enough to treat them.
Correct.
So counseling
That's a separate set of skills.
Exactly, it does. And you do require to be trained for it. It's not like you sit for a coffee or for a beer with a friend and you're just chatting away about your woes.
No, then anybody would become a therapist.
Exactly, exactly. So counseling's actually been made a compulsory part of your IVF treatment because, as we were talking before, it's not 100%. You go through the entire procedure.
It takes a huge mental toll.
Absolutely.
Also, you know what I've realized over the years when I see IVF being advertised, it is advertised, which is not the truth, but it is advertised as a guarantee to have a child since you can't conceive on your own. But IVF, like any other procedure, is a try and error. It may work, it may not work. But I think what happens is, because it's advertised as you can't have a baby.
Biggest myth.
Exactly. So I'm going to come to that. So the advertising is, if you can't have a baby, come to this clinic and the clinic will advertise, sure, short, 99%, whatever, you're going to go through this process, have a baby. What happens is, when a couple is trying to have a baby and they can't conceive, yes, they're disheartened, yes, they're upset. What happens if they go to IVF and it fails? Oh my God, life comes crashing down because the expectations were
much
there.
higher. Yeah.
So tell us, why is IVF advertised as the ultimate, solution to infertility?
My first thing is run away from any center that says that it's a guarantee. Okay, just run away. Because, look, let me put it in this way. 1978 was the first IVF baby born. Okay?
Yeah, that's not too long ago.
Yeah, 1978, 50 to 60 years ago. Okay? Do you know when the second baby was born? The first baby was Louise Brown. I think she was born in England, yeah. Do you know when the second baby was born?
90 something?
2 months later.
Oh.
Do you know where?
No.
India.
I thought it was.
Literally, we were already there. In fact, the technique that was used for the second baby is what we use today.
Wow.
Okay? So it was completely revolutionary. At that time, the success rate used to be 5 to 10%.
Of IVF.
For IVF to be successful. We're talking about 78. Today, it's about 50 to 60%.
See, this is what I'm saying. It's never advertised like that. It's advertised as 90 to 99. I feel like it's kind of misleading people to think that if I'm going to this doctor, if I'm going to this clinic, by next year I'll be holding a baby. But people have so many issues and they should be given realistic approach so that it brings their mental health to a normal.
Absolutely. So, especially when a patient comes in, I try to understand the entire case. Because, see, you're going to have a male factor and female factor. We've been talking about that. But it's not going to be a standard thing where you say, okay, you have a 50 to 60% result. See, when we talk about a 50 to 60% result, we're talking when we have good quality eggs, good quality sperm, and a good quality uterus.
And age by your side.
And age by your side, of course. So when we look at these factors, then I can say that, okay, we have a 50 to 60% chance. Again, when there is a male factor, it's a lot easier to get a pregnancy than when it's a female factor.
Correct.
Because a male factor, we found techniques to surpass it. Right now, the female reproductive system is still very complex. There are multiple things we don't understand. See, if we understood, then why not? I'd love to give 100%, yeah?
Correct.
Any patient that comes in who wants to be a parent, I'd love to help them become a parent. Why not?
Everybody would want to show
Exactly. Why not? But the thing is, there are certain things that we as doctors don't understand. That's why we're never able to say 100%. In fact, I would never even say 90 to 99%. Because I know for a fact that I can't say that 9 out of 10 women are going to get pregnant who end up coming for an IVF treatment. I always say that, look, for every 10 couples going through an IVF process, 5 to 6 people would get pregnant, provided the prognosis is good. Because now if I look at a 30-year-old and I look at a 40-year-old,
Completely different.
I cannot say that a 30-year-old and a 40-year-old are going to have the same success rates.
Yeah, they can't have the same chances.
They can't because a 40-year-old's eggs are going to be a lot less in number and in quality as compared to a 30-year-old. In fact, I was just writing an article right now and they asked me, what about genetics? Does that really play a role? I said, yes, that is one part which we haven't yet cracked. And that could be one of the major reasons why we don't understand all this. I think in Munna Bhai MBBS, they said chemical locha. Yeah. So there is certain chemical lochas even we don't get.
Yeah.
And that's why we aren't able to ever promise like a 90 or 100%.
I mean, that is in general, if you see the human body, it's not understood part to part yet. Every
Be
year,
immortal.
Yeah, every year we hear, oh, they discovered this, and every year they say we've discovered this about the heart, about the kidney, about this. Oh, this suits us, this doesn't suit us, this works for us. Brain. Every year there's so many articles that come up like they're discovering, which means reproductive system is still also being discovered.
It's complete.
For all you know, 20 years down the line, you'll be like, in 2025 they were thinking that this was the thing, and now just see, you never know, right?
Yeah.
You could be at the beginning.
Yeah.
We don't know.
This field is, as we were talking, this field is only
Fairly
50,
new.
60 years old. Today we consider a 60-year-old still young.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're no longer...
We're still a young country. We've
Exactly.
been independent for 70 years.
We are a young country. The procedure's young. And I think we're still, another 20 to 50 years away before we can actually promise these rates of 90 to 100%.
Correct. Absolutely. So tell me, society often weaponizes time against women through the idea of, a biological clock. Can you tell us what your thoughts are on the biological clock?
It's real. It is real. It's not about weaponizing it.
Tell us in a layman's term, because not everyone gets the scientific side of it, and I'm sure there's
So let me
information on
put it
the
this way.
internet. Yeah.
When you are a child inside the mother's uterus, this is before you're born, you've got something like 2 million eggs.
Okay.
By the time you are born, like in those 9 months from that small little embryo till the time of you are being born, those eggs have reduced to 5 lakh.
From 2 million?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
By the time you hit puberty, they've dropped even more. And by the time you hit your 50s, you're left with something like 4,000 or 5,000 eggs. And that's why you hit menopause. So every cycle, you're losing a certain number of eggs. And that's why, and as age increases, the quality of these eggs are also reducing.
Correct.
Yes, it's used as a weapon saying that get pregnant earlier, you may have difficulty later on. It's true. But at the same time, you can take charge of your biological clock. So there is something where you can actually take charge of your biological clock. So egg freezing, this is something that's being talked about quite a bit. In fact, Diana Hayden is someone who did egg freezing for the first time for social reasons. She's probably one of the first few women in the world. See, egg freezing was done for cancer, for medical management, for other medical conditions, but never saying that I've not found the right partner.
Correct.
And Diana was someone who actually took it up and said that, look, the reason I talk about it is she's been very open about it. And she always says that I'm a diehard romantic. Till I don't find a partner, I don't think I want to have kids. So she said the only way of me taking control of this biology is to freeze my eggs. So what I always suggest, and in fact, let me give you my own example. I got married when I was 25. Okay. My wife also, we were both young. But we didn't want to have kids. So we froze our embryos because we were like, we don't know when we are going to be ready to have a kid.
Correct.
So we froze our embryos.
At the peak of your biological clock.
Let's put this at the peak of our fertility. Okay. We said we'll plan a baby in 21, 22. The year we froze our embryos, the next year we were pregnant naturally.
Wow.
So in that sense, it wasn't planned. It wasn't anything, but we were like, okay, if it's happened, it's happened.
Yeah.
You'll never say that there's a right time to have a baby.
There's never a perfect time.
Yeah.
There's never a perfect time to get married. There's never a perfect time to have children. There's never a perfect time to, I don't know, any other milestone. Yeah.
Like literally. So when you talk about the biological clock, yes, it's real in terms that as you age, it's going to get more difficult to get pregnant, but not impossible. Remember that. 2, you can take charge of your biological clock by opting for these fertility preservations like egg freezing, or if you're already married, you can consider embryo freezing.
Yeah.
So these things are going to keep you in control of your clock. But remember, when you freeze these eggs and freeze these embryos, so suppose I've frozen my eggs or embryos at 28 or 29, and I decide to get pregnant at the age of 40, my eggs and embryos are still 28, 29 at the age I've frozen them. They stop aging. They don't become 40.
Understood.
And the uterus is not affected by age, but the ovaries are.
They are stuck in time.
Yes. Well put.
Yeah, so in fact, I read an article the other day. I think it came out just a few days ago about the oldest baby being born. So oldest in the terms of the embryo was frozen in 94 and the kid was born in 2024, which makes the embryo 30 years old. But obviously the embryo is new and the kid will be newborn.
Yeah.
How do you explain that? It's so like amazing and fascinating.
But that's the technology we're taking advantage of. That this couple, they adopted an embryo from which was frozen all the way back in 1994. The thing is, we freeze it at minus 196 degrees centigrade. That's considered absolute zero, where all functions shut down. So that embryo, because it was healthy and everything, and honestly speaking, if they would have probably tried to use it then, the techniques weren't as refined as they are now.
Yeah.
So if they would have tried to use it then, the embryo probably would not have implanted. But today's techniques have become so refined, we've become experts at it, that they were probably being able to use it. As I said, these embryos can be frozen technically for life. So you can keep them frozen for as long as you want. And now the recovery rates with the science, the way it has progressed, is almost 90 to 95%. In fact, in some labs, it even goes up to 97 to 98%.
Wow.
So at these situations, you're able to actually get these embryos and use them. So I'm just going to give you an example of Diana because she talks about it. Diana froze her eggs when she was 33, 34. She didn't find a partner until she was 41. She got married then. Then she used a partner's sperm sample and got pregnant when she was 42.
Wow.
So she used embryos which were 8 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not like the 30-year-old embryo. But this I'm talking about from the Indian perspective. And then she went on to have another set of twins later. So she got 3 kids from embryos which were frozen 8 to 10 years back.
So I've heard of a lot of women egg freezing, and everyone's still hush-hush about it, especially when girls are unmarried.
Yeah.
Like you said, Dinah's probably one of the few, because she
Absolutely.
also belongs to the media world. It's very open. But a lot of our societies and a lot of our cultures are quite conservative when it comes to childbirth, when it comes to conceiving, and they want to be very secretive, and they'll say, yeah, she just conceived. You know, someone's describing her daughter, yeah, she naturally conceived. I don't know when it happened. We just suddenly got the good news. No matter the battle has been 2 years long or 3 years long, but nobody really talks about it. So that was the whole point of this podcast, that let's talk about things that no one talks about. Because in the end, you have no idea, 5 people in your vicinity are going through exactly what you're going through. And if you talk about it, it might just get easier. Now, what I realized is, 1, egg freezing is something people don't talk about. 2, egg freezing is something people don't even encourage within societies, within families and friends. And number 3, the education on it is also very limited. Arey, she's 30, she'll get married, why does she need to do it? But she should already have done it.
Yeah, she should have. In fact, 30 is what the age at which we recommend. Ideally, they say till 35 is the best time to do it. But I think for Indian women, till 32, 33 would be the ideal time to do it. Because remember one thing, when I talk about egg freezing, we're talking about at least getting 10 to 20 eggs. Because at that point, we'll be able to give the highest chance of a pregnancy. When you talk about the hush-hush part, yes, people don't want to talk about it because they're like, sabko lagega ki aage jaake if I'm having a pregnancy, it's going to be an IVF pregnancy. I think that's a myth we need to bust, that just because you've frozen your eggs does not mean that you are going to have to get pregnant only through IVF. You can conceive naturally.
Correct.
As I told you about my own story.
Yeah, your own.
Yeah, so you can conceive naturally. This is like your fertility insurance. You buy car insurance, right?
Yeah.
Not under the pretext that I'm going to go and crash my car.
Correct.
The entire thing is you're just buying it for safety. This is the same way, the way you're not buying it, you're investing in it. You're investing into your fertility for the future. Because for all you know, say at 43, you decide to get married or rather forget even getting married. You decide to become a single mother at 43. At 43, I'm not going to be able to give you the same success rates
Not at all.
what you were at 30. So if you've frozen your eggs at 30, then yes, at 43, I can promise you the same success rates because you've frozen your eggs a long time ago.
Correct.
So that's really going to help out. And another thing that you said, that there are many people undergoing the same procedure in and around you. See, obviously, when patients are coming to me, everyone knows that they're facing fertility issues. It's not like a hush-hush scenario when you're at an IVF clinic.
Yeah, they've not come to celebrate their birthday with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So at that point, what we noticed is groups among themselves start forming support groups. And that really helps, like where they talk to each other. So even if one patient comes positive and the other patient comes negative, they tell each other, like, don't worry. So I had one patient who underwent a total of 6 IVF cycles. Okay. The first 3, out of the 6, she got pregnant thrice, aborted within the first 3 months, ended up in her 6th, after the 6th cycle and her 7th transfer. She finally got pregnant with twins. So I took a stitch and everything and let it be. At 29 weeks, she went into labor.
Oh, God.
I rushed her to a NICU. There are a lot of NICUs in Bombay, at least I can say, which can send a 29-weeker home.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So took her to the babies were in NICU for 2 months. They did well. They went home. That woman, when she got pregnant and finally crossed that 3-month mark, she used to keep following up every 2 weeks with me for delivery. So at that time, the other patients who had 1 IVF failure or 2 IVF, she used to sit with them and she's like, don't worry, it will happen. And just that motivation. And she used to openly talk about her story.
Yeah.
Because
But
of
that's
that,
rare.
it is rare. But that's what I'm saying, that we say na boond boond se sagar banta hai.
Yeah.
So it's these small things that these patients do for each other really helps. It actually motivated one of the patients to go in for their second IVF cycle. We're talking about a woman who's gone through 6, and this lady had 1 IVF cycle failed, was thinking, why will I do it? My first cycle's failed. What's
No
the point?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So this woman said that, listen, this was my 6th cycle and my 8th transfer, 7th transfer. I don't remember. But so this woman and that other woman went through the cycle, got pregnant. When she came to follow up for the delivery and she saw her, she's like, thank you so much. If you hadn't told me what you had gone through, I probably would have not attempted a second cycle. So these small things actually help. So when you talk about that, keeping it shush, fair enough. As we said, it's your privacy. It's nobody else's
I'm
business.
talking about shush, as in a lot of people think like it's a shameful thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of shame attached to it. So I'll tell you why. The thought process, according to me, is I'm going for IVF or I'm going for fertility treatment. Again, back to what I told you, I'm not fertile, I am not good enough, I'm incompetent. So I think to hide the fact that, or they think it's incompetency, it isn't. So for example, I get a ligament tear and I'm not able to play squash anymore.
Pickleball now.
I play squash, I'm saying I don't play squash anymore. So I won't start hiding.
Yeah.
You know, in the end, I'll be like, oh, I need to go for a ligament tear. I need to fix a doctor. I haven't done it. I've been lazy about it. I really need to get this done. So you should see when people are really secretive about it. Like, I don't know why people don't openly say, because what happens is you may land up, like you said, motivating another or consoling another.
Yeah, it's possible. And being very honest with you, I think this entire taboo around this is because, as you said, the incompetence.
Yeah.
And especially if the male is involved, then they want to be shush about it even more.
100%.
So, yes, I would say that I think people are opening about it a little bit more than I would say a decade ago. But now, even now, not everyone's opener. Like majority of my practices, my old patients who've gotten pregnant, sending in new patients saying that, okay, look, this doc helped me. And if they were being secretive about it, they wouldn't talk about it.
Correct.
But I think the times are changing. I think people are getting a bit more aware about it. And I think people like you and I who are talking about it so much are actually reaching out so that we are able to help people form these support rooms within themselves. Absolutely. I'm not saying that go and announce it with a band baja barat saying that I'm going through IVF, but maybe find groups. And in today's day and age,
there's a community for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
You can easily find, you'll randomly find WhatsApp group, Facebook communities, etc. So it's very easy to do that. And if you want to talk about it to people, then please go ahead. You're just going to motivate others to go for it.
So IVF is seen as a miracle, right? And it is actually a very brutal process emotionally and physically. So what's the one truth about IVF that most people are not prepared for?
IVF is not 100%. I think when we talk about it as a miracle, yes, it is a miracle because we're creating a baby outside the body. I think that really is something which, so in 1936, there was a book which was published which called IVF as science fiction. Yeah, it's a medical miracle, no doubt. As I said, 1936, Aldous Huxley published a book called A Brave New World. He called IVF science fiction.
Amazing.
And in 78, we're talking about this.
It being reality.
It being reality. It's there. It's present. But one truth that I want to talk about, which people are not ready for, is it's a very mentally taxing procedure. See, the physical part is there. You know that you're going to face the injections because we've discussed all of these things with you. But the one part I think everyone's not prepared for is that you're going to go through an emotional roller coaster. It's an emotional roller coaster. See, the medicines which we're giving, we're producing a lot of eggs. The estrogen is rising.
Significantly.
I don't even want to say how many fold. It's increasing significantly. So because of that, the woman is going to go through an emotional roller coaster where even something like dropping a pin on the floor can trigger you emotionally. So I think that's one thing people are definitely not prepared for in terms of that.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more awareness created around mental health for IVF patients.
Absolutely.
Because, like you said, it's medical. If you're injecting an extra of something that your body is not producing and your body is yet to deal with, then it's like a foreign object, right? It's a foreign hormone. Now that a hormone has so many implications on you, but nobody's explaining it to you that it's going to have these implications, and you suddenly feel it or face it, and even your partner might turn around and be like, what's with the moods? Why are you crying? What is happening to you? You're so moody, you're so cranky. Could be anything. Could be your family members. Oh my god, she's onto something. Is she on her period? You people can make jokes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, could be anything. In the end, I think there has to be counseling or emotional health awareness when it comes to IVF.
In fact, today we do discuss about the emotional roller coaster while talking, because I think in today's day and age, everyone reads and comes. We've got ChatGPT, we've got Google. I, in fact, encourage all patients to do it because I just tell them one thing. When you go to a restaurant, you look at the menu, it'll have 10, 20, 30 things, but you'll always ask, what's the best here?
Correct.
It's the same thing with IVF. Think of us as a hotel. You're coming in where your waiters ask us what's best for you. We'll tell you. And we'll also tell you, like when they tell you this is spicy, this is non-spicy, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
This is going to be having an emotional roller coaster. It's going to affect you this way. It's going to affect you that way. These are the different effects that you're going to go through your body. But at the same time, I'm happy that counseling's become a part of it.
Yeah.
Where we do send you to a psychologist who would be able to discuss with you what are the things that you can face when your results are positive, when your results are negative.
Yeah, I think the mental implications have to be discussed because I know they're huge.
Yeah.
I was also reading about, how IVF can really break a person emotionally and mentally if it doesn't work out for them. For example, like I said, it's also that expectation thing, that 100% thing that people have in mind. So they've spent a year doing IVF and they are so disheartened. It can break a marriage. It can break a family. It can sour relationships within a family. It could be you and your mother-in-law, could be him and his father, could be anybody, right? So I just feel like there are so many verticals attached to it and they must be addressed because moving forward, like I said, we all are so aware.
Absolutely.
We have all the technology. We have all the awareness that we can tap into. So we must.
I completely agree with you because, look, as an IVF specialist, I can't do everything all by myself.
Yeah.
I think we have reached an era today where we are all into specialization. Like earlier, you would call someone to the house to handle everything in the house.
One physician handling the brain, the heart.
Forget that. I'm talking about plumbing, electric. Forget about health. Even today, now, if your computer spoiled, you don't call an electrician. You'll call someone who deals with just the computers or just the printer.
And not only just computers, are you an Apple expert or not?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
MacBooks.
Exactly. It's gone into super specialization.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing here. I, as an IVF specialist, may not be able to handle everything. So it's important to get a mental health specialist as well. And I think in that manner, yes, as you said, it affects you emotionally, especially when you have a negative result. I completely agree. See, I can be empathetic. I can give you some tender loving care, but I don't think I'm an expert to handle those other, I'm not conditioned to, rather, I should say.
Not only that, then that's taking away from your job also. Because if your job is to make sure people are having babies, let's say someone has not been successful, and if you spend a lot of time on the not successful part, your job was to make sure that the others are successful, whoever are trying. I just mean like everyone's expertise comes in. So an expertise who can deal with the not having part should be taken that part. Can't be taken by you.
But let me put it this way as well. It affects our mental health as well as IVF specialists. See, when we're doing this entire field of trying to get someone pregnant, we also get that joy when we see someone who's not gotten pregnant for 10 years. I think my longest standing infertility case was a couple married for 23 years.
23 years?
23 years. And they've been trying for 23 years.
Wow.
And they got pregnant after 23 years and they went on to deliver. They still come to the clinic every year to cut their baby's cake. The child comes with them. I think now the child is almost 8 years old. Wow. So they still come. Every year on the child's birthday, they come, they cut a cake with me. They don't care which clinic I'm at. Whether I'm in New Bombay, whether I'm in Opera House, they call me up. They're like, where are you today? I said, I'm here. They said, we're coming at this time with the cake. And they are so loving. They do come. So I understand that entire thing. But when a patient's negative, it hits us as well.
So in your experience, what has been the most heartbreaking story of a couple's struggle?
So I had this one couple, they just kept trying. And this one, they came in and said that, Doc, we've done 2 IVF cycles. Okay, just to give a backstory, beyond a certain point, even we are saying that let's go in for a donor egg or a donor sperm or donor embryo. Based on that, we'll tell them. So she said, I've only done 2 cycles and we've gone for it. And I said, okay, let's give it an attempt. We've tried everything. Let's try once more. There's a few new technologies. This was almost a decade ago. So we tried all of that. She got pregnant and she ended up miscarrying. After that, she tells me that this was my first pregnancy in 11 IVF cycles.
Oh, so you didn't know about the other 9?
She didn't tell me because I think she had gone to multiple clinics before and she had told them. And after a point, certain clinics just started saying no to her. And they were absolutely right about it. Because if I knew that she had gone through that many cycles, I would have said, listen, no.
And how much can the body take?
Exactly. Beyond the point, as you said, physical and emotional. So at that point, for my own mental health, I was like, oh my God, this woman. And after that, I don't know whether she continued trying because I said, okay, listen, no more IVF cycles. If you're thinking, think of adoption, maybe consider surrogacy, maybe think about other things. But she was very adamant. And I said, listen, after you've told me that this was your 11th, there's no way I'm doing more. Because if I knew that she had done 10 before, I would have said, absolutely no. There's this one very beautiful picture on Google. It's genuinely heartbreaking about this couple who went through multiple IVF cycles and finally had a baby. So they put a baby in the middle and she had saved all the injections she had taken. There were about 1,600 injections that she had taken throughout from the start of her IVF cycle till delivery. And she had made a heart around the baby with all those injections saying that, look, this is what I've gone through, but it was all worth it at the end because I finally have my baby.
My goodness.
I think it's such a double-edged sword whether to think it's worth it or not worth it.
I was going to say that for me, I think there's 2 sides to that story. Yeah. One way of looking at it is, wow, look, the miracle happened. And the other side to look at it is like, but really? Like, you could have, like you said, adopted, or you could have gone to surrogacy, you could have done whatever else instead of putting yourself through the 1,600 injections. But then again, I think that's left to perspective. That's left to what are you really chasing in life. Everyone has their own way of looking at it.
Exactly.
That's debatable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's crazy. And that's also determination.
Yeah, it does. Honestly,
that's crazy determination.
Yeah, I genuinely want to meet that couple to understand what they went through.
And how they kept going.
And because it's something that can be looked at it in a good way as well as a bad way. But it would give me perspective on how to speak to the patients as well.
Yeah, because, repeatedly trying for something and failing works up to a point. And I think after that, you just think to yourself, it's not for me. Let's say I'm trying to be the world's best chef and I start entering competitions, and let's say I keep failing and keep failing.
Yeah.
I'll probably enter 5. 6th one, I'll be like, I don't think I'll make it. There are people better. And you'll accept it. That
Exactly.
I'm here and I'm not meant to be here. And you
Exactly.
leave it. You let it go. And you'll be like, maybe I should try to be something else. But I
Possibly.
think to really, really keep at it, I don't know.
I think
That's another kind of conviction that's
yeah,
required.
I think that's
I'm
out of
happy
my
for them.
purview of expertise.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's inspiring in a sense, because if somebody has that much determination of getting what they really want. So tell me, what is the most inspiring story of resilience that you've experienced with your clients?
So besides the patient that I spoke about earlier, there was another patient who had like 4 miscarriages back to back, and
Every month, you mean?
no,
Every cycle she did.
and she had conceived naturally. All 4 times she had conceived naturally, but she kept having miscarriages at 6 weeks, at 7 weeks, at 8 weeks, and everything. We investigated her thoroughly. Everything was normal. It was unexplained. That's what I say, that we don't know everything. So at that point, I was like, okay, maybe we think of taking a donor egg, maybe a donor sperm. There could be some issue which we aren't able to catch.
Correct.
It's not possible to diagnose because there aren't those tests available yet. So at that point, they said, no, doc. See, we don't have a problem in getting pregnant. We have a problem in continuing that pregnancy. Let's try everything under the sun to try and get her pregnant. So I said, okay. At that time, there was pre-genetic testing of the embryos, which was new back then.
Correct.
It wasn't like what it is today.
Yeah, today it's like a normal test.
Yeah.
Everyone does it.
Everyone can attempt it. There are laws for it, but besides the point. But the entire thing was, we did a pre-genetic testing. In that, when I did her IVF, and I got like about 6 blastocysts, young girl just having miscarriages. Out of that, we realized out of the 6 embryos that were formed, 5 were abnormal. There was just 1 normal one.
Oh, and she was probably getting pregnant.
She was probably getting with abnormal pregnancy, and she never cleaned her uterus. They used to give her pills to abort, so there was no way of testing that. If we had tested it, we probably would have known, maybe gone in earlier. But we put in that 1 normal embryo. She was not happy. She was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm pregnant. I've been pregnant before. It's not a big deal."
It depends if it lasts.
Yeah, 6 weeks, the heartbeat came. That's when she started panicking. She's like, "Doc, the heartbeats come. I don't know what to do. Is it going to continue?" I said, "We'll repeat a scan after 2 weeks." After 2 weeks, the heartbeat was still there. And I'm like, now I'm also having that same anxiety at that point. I'm like, please let this go on, please. I said, repeat the scan again after 2 weeks. So she's like, is it safe? I said, see, sonographies are safe for the baby. There's no radiation, nothing.
Correct.
It's just sound waves. At 10 weeks, the heartbeat's still there. Now we're all crossing our fingers and just sitting tight. We're like, just 3 more weeks.
Yeah.
Just 3 more weeks. Get there. And after that, we know that it's fine. 13 weeks, we do the scan, we do the blood test, everything's normal. So she and I are looking. She's like, because now there's another part that we've never reached this point, what to expect further. So at then we're like, okay, should we take a stitch? There's something called a stitch to tighten the cervix. It's not indicated in every patient, but we didn't know. So she's like, should we take this? I said, let's not. I said, you're not indicated for it. There's no signs pointing towards it. Shall we just wait and watch? She's like, okay, but I want to do scans more frequently. I said, even I want to do scans. I don't think you needed to tell me. We reached 9 months. At 9 months, she's like, doc, I want a cesarean. I said, why? I said, there's nothing wrong with you. Let's plan. She's like, listen, I've gone through hell and back. You're the first person who's got me up till this point. I just want to see my baby now. So at 38 weeks, we planned an elective cesarean, got the baby. I'm not kidding. When I took the baby out and showed it to her, she and I both were crying. And I'm operating over there. I'm like shedding tears, and my assistant's looking at me, and she's like, because it was someone who was new who had joined me. I said, you have no idea the conversations we've had to actually, like, even I'm getting a bit teary-eyed now talking about it, but the kind of feeling that mother went through, I myself emotionally were on a roller coaster, because seeing her, that happiness was unbelievable. The father was also in the OT. He's also
Bawling.
he's shedding tears. Like, honestly, we were worried we'd flood the OT with the amount of tears that we were shedding. But it was a surreal feeling. The resilience that woman showed. And honestly, to a point where I say, there's faith as well. She was like willing to give that attempt. Because, see,
Also gratitude towards science. Like, I'll tell you, the fact that you were able to see that she has, you did the, I don't know the word, the
blastocyst biopsy, PGTA.
yeah. So let's say you did that and you figured that out of 6, 5 weren't even able to be normal pregnancies, and then you kind of refined and picked out one and said this one will work, and it did. Now imagine going back not too long ago, my grandmother's generation, they didn't have this option. So like imagine the gratitude we should have towards science.
Absolutely.
That, they would, I remember my grandma said that she had her chachi's kid or something, like relatives, one of her relatives who was her age. And she said, I used to have kid after kid. My grandma had 6. So she said, I used to have kid after kid. And she was my sister-in-law, and she had like 7 miscarriages. She would have them or not have them, and they were not viable or whatever.
Yeah.
Something would happen, something wrong would happen. And she's like, everyone should think she's cursed. So I'm just saying that imagine where we've reached,
That's such a stigma.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And she was known as the cursed or the diseased or the incompetent, whatever, that she can't have normal kids. She had 2 abnormal kids, and then the rest didn't survive.
And see, the mental health wasn't such a big deal back then. Nobody
It
even
wasn't
cared
a thing.
about it.
It wasn't
Exactly.
even a thing. So I'm just saying that we should have so much gratitude towards science.
I think we're progressing well as a society.
And I think we should be really, thankful that we have reached a place where you can find out what you're going to conceive, how you're going to conceive it. Yes, obviously. Yes, good luck, bad luck, everything, works out. Some things really may not meant to work out, but in the end, at least we have that option of trying and trying correctly, scientifically.
Absolutely.
So, before we close, I want to ask a very important question about surrogacy. Why is surrogacy still a stigma in India? Number one, IVF used to be a whisper. Now IVF has become a chat, and surrogacy has become a whisper. Why?
So I think, again, like when we talked about IVF at the start, how it's a shush thing. Again, that level of competence, or for whatever reason that you're going through surrogacy, people want to stay shush about it because they want to say that we had the baby. See, it's still your own genetics. It's taking your sperm, your egg, making your baby, but you're implanting it into another woman to carry it. And see, there are plenty in today's day and age, since the law has come in 2021, you need to have a medical reason to undergo surrogacy.
Correct.
You can't just
Correct.
do
You can't just pick
surrogacy
it because
to
you're lazy.
maintain your figure.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
Yeah.
you can't do that anymore. So there are medical reasons why it is. Like, you can be genetically born without a uterus. But you could have had a hysterectomy for any reason, or removal of the uterus. You could possibly, tuberculosis is one of the biggest things in India, which destroys the lining of the uterus. So because of all these things, you can't carry a pregnancy no matter what science has progressed to.
Correct.
But at the same time, as you said, they're thinking about competence. They may not want to disclose to the world that this. In fact, I've known that women who, like couples who've gone in for surrogacy, the woman keeps wearing a pregnancy belly throughout the 9 months.
Today's day and age?
Wow. And then at the time of delivery, they get admitted into the hospital for delivery. The surrogate gets delivered and the baby goes to the mother.
And they actually come out with the baby pretending they had it?
Yes.
Okay, I have not seen that, because I have 2 or 3 friends who've been through surrogacy, but they're very open about it. Like, yeah, we did go through it, and they had their own medical reasons and whatever. But I had no idea that people actually still pretend to wear bellies.
Yeah.
So as science advances and the idea of family is also changing, how do you see the future of parenthood evolving in India with technology, surrogacy and adoption becoming more mainstream?
So I'll tell you what, people are still going to consider natural pregnancy the best way to go forward. But I think people are going to get a lot more open towards IVF, towards surrogacy, towards adoption. Because as we go ahead, people are getting more aware. See, as I said, earlier we wouldn't even talk about it. In the 90s and 2000s, I doubt anybody spoke about this egg freezing and the embryo freezing. At least now people have started talking about it. Celebrities are talking about it. Celebrities are talking about even IVF for that matter.
Correct.
So I think going on ahead, this is going to become mainstream in terms for patients who can't conceive. I'm not saying that conception is going to be only IVF, but for people who face difficulty in getting pregnant, IVF, surrogacy, or adoption, one of the three ways is going to be the way they get pregnant and conceive.
So, with every guest, I have a closing question that's very important to me, and please answer it as honestly as possible. If you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning your occupation, where you're from, your ethnicity, your nationality, where you grew up, what your hobbies are, and what your religion is, which are all these superficial markers that we use day to day to describe ourselves, how would you describe yourself to me?
Wow, that's the most difficult question throughout this entire podcast. But if I had to say, I think I'm a fun-loving guy who loves to talk to people. I love being in a conversation. I enjoy the positivity of things. I try to stay away from the negatives. Even if there are, I like to give a positive spin to it. So I think more than, to just simplify it, I think I'm an optimist more than anything else.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Rohan. That was an absolutely interesting, intriguing, and hilarious conversation that we've had. So many fun angles to it. And I hope to see you very soon.
Thank you so much, Ashna. It was wonderful being on this podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rohan Palshetkar, and every day I meet couples carrying the weight of infertility, medical challenges mixed with an emotional struggle. On the Therapy Diaries, I share what these journeys look like and why mental wellness makes all the difference. So subscribe now to join the conversation. Cheers.